So I'm having way too much fun with Suno. It's an AI platform, that makes theme songs or makes whatever kind of song you want. Giving everybody some time to get into the show, but Monday, welcome to Monday. It's a thing. I am Sean Shapiro, that TikTok traffic cop guy, and I am here to answer your traffic and police questions, even if the songs aren't playing. Michael says here, he says, good morning. Real singers are better than AI. That may be true, but that's pretty awesome considering all I typed into the Q box. What I type in here? I said, make a 90s television intro for Monday's Ask a Traffic Cop episode, a talk show where police answer your traffic and police questions. No dancing and only a few jokes. It's fun, it's friendly, it's educational. And that's what it came up with. And I think that's pretty amazing. So Gerald wanted to know what it was. Just go to www.suno.ai and play with it. They have a free account. I'm having too much fun. Every day I get 50 credits to play with. And that's how I spent them. We've got Moto Windsor who says, good morning, Sean. And I say good morning to you. We have here, which is yes, our regular song is the best one, and that is written, performed by a police officer right here. Yukonatug, yes. What do we got here? We got a bunch of things for you today, things that are similar to what we have for you every day, and that is where we talk to you about Vision Zero. We answer your questions. We do it for about an hour, and you can be watching or listening to us depending on how you are tuned in. Now, if you're listening to us, you're probably listening to the replay because this is all available as a podcast after the show. We download it, we upload it, and it's available on podcast apps like Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, and Spotify, which actually hosts it and distributes it amongst all of them. Look for Ask a Traffic Cop or AATC. You can also find links to everything we do by going to, I think I put a new link here. No, where is it? Here we go, TrafficCop.ca. If you go to TrafficCop.ca, I finally put that on the screen. You can get to all our social media, and that includes the podcast. Yeah. Let's start with Vision Zero Enforcement Team before I even get into the hellos because I have the button in front of me, so it makes life easier. What are they? They're a dedicated group of officers who go out and try and change driver behavior one ticket at a time because that's a form of education. You see, I do the education here online, and if it doesn't work, if it doesn't get to you, they'll reach out and issue a ticket in person, and hopefully that ticket will serve as the education drivers need to change their behavior. What kind of behavior are we talking about? We're looking for those who choose to speed, drive aggressively, drive distracted, or drive impaired, because we know that those behaviors lead to serious injury and death on our roads. It's unacceptable. Yeah, totally. See, we understand as a Vision Zero city that minor collisions, they're going to happen. But the ones that lead to serious injury and death are both preventable and completely unacceptable. See? It's a thing. Now, if you're watching, you are probably watching on one of these, YouTube, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and of course, X. And we've been seeing more and more people coming through on Twitter, X. It's pretty cool. A lot more people joining us from that platform. So welcome if you're watching there. Know that the link works and you should be able to ask us questions. And that's pretty cool. And then there's the folks over here on Instagram. I should put a lower third up that says, Instagram people, if you want to ask questions and guarantee being seen, come over to our YouTube page, youtube.trafficcop.ca. We'll take you right there. Okay. Watchdog says, nice song, but I live for the original yellow light, red light, green light, go. Yes. Thistle says, you made a song? I didn't, but Suno did. It is too cool. Okay. Jordan says, good morning. Paul enjoys the fun and says, good morning, all. User with lots of numbers says, why is Canada falling apart? That is a question I cannot answer. I'm sorry that you feel that way. You know, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. The entire world is having a hard time right now. Let's see here. Eric Gu, I don't know how to pronounce his name. But the message is, I'm currently working on my OPP application. Once I submit, how long to hear back? If I worked for the OPP, I would have even a reasonable guess, but I don't. I don't work for them, and I don't have a reasonable guess. It is a process. I would talk to a recruiter before you submit it, regardless of where you're applying. Make sure that you check with them and make sure that you get an idea. All those questions could be asked by or answered by those folks. Brandon says, good morning from Orlando. Hope we all have a fantastic and positive day. I wish I was in Orlando. It's cold here today. How's the weather in Orlando? Boy Mom says, good morning, Sean. Well, good morning to you, too. And Northern Pike comes in with a good morning, everyone. And I and I just realized after describing where Vision Zero or what Vision Zero is, that I entirely neglected to tell you where they are today. So maybe I should do that. Today, the Vision Zero enforcement team are spending time in 13th Division and 51 Division. Those are neighborhoods like Yorkdale, Glen Park, Briar Hill, Wychwood, Oakwood, Vaughan, St. Jamestown, Cabbagetown, Riverdale, Church and Young, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. And we announce that every morning, where they're going to be every morning. You can find it by going to Traffic Services on X or Traffic Services Toronto on Instagram. Of course, you can also join us on our Facebook page. And again, all links, TrafficCop.ca. Okay, back to the hellos and whatnot. We have a question from Motor Windsor asking about rear views. Do you have to have a clear view to the rear? I've got a dad joke from Brandon for later. Foti wants to know about my take on somebody's page that I don't actually follow, so I don't know what that is. Benjamin says, my driver's ed school just linked your videos. You know what? We are happy that they're utilizing our videos for educational purposes. That's why we're here. So if they're teaching you with me on your screen, then that's fantastic. We're happy to. A lot of places asked permission first. Others didn't, but we are publicly available videos, or we post our videos and they're publicly available, so it's all good. Tian says, good morning, everyone. Okay, here's one that I love and we'll talk about later on. Should I leave my keys outside so robbers can come take them easily? This has been getting a lot of attention in the media, and I look forward to addressing it in just a couple of minutes. We'll come back to it. I want to come back and jump on a bunch of other things first. What do we have here? Oh. If a TPS officer was driving a patrol car from the historical fleet, can they still pull people over to respond to emergencies? I don't think we'd want to, but technically, yeah, it's a police car. So there's nothing that changed it. It's a police car owned by a police service. It's got lights and functional sirens. It's still enforceable. But if I had a 1982 yellow police car, people might get a little confused. And your mileage would vary, but it would be illegal. It would be lawful. Okay. Vigilante justice, what's this? Oh, lots of people getting upset. Or is it the same person? No, they're having a conversation amongst themselves. Please use the letter Q at the beginning of the question, so I know it's a question and not dialogue between you, because, here we are with Technomaj having conversation with Arshmallow. Anyway, moving on. Brian wants to know, why can't they make it a law if it's raining, lights must be on? Interesting. And actually, rather than flagging it for later, I'll put it on screen and I'll address it. I don't know. They could. Always having lights on is not bad. Auto-sensing lights aren't a bad idea. But certainly they could make it a law. Currently isn't one. If it's dark out, you have to have them on. Okay. But rain in particular? No, I don't think it is. Orlando weather is sunny and 26. Awesome. Tim Shallow jumps in with a good morning, Sean. And Akela is late. It says, greetings and salutations from the Traffic Management Center. Sorry I'm late. We'll let it go this time, I guess. What do we have here? In a little while, we'll after getting to a bunch of your questions, we'll jump into some career stuff, because lots of people want to know about how to become a police officer and other jobs and stuff and things you can do with the Toronto Police Service. Looking over here. Zed Content wants to know if a TSV constable can transfer to specialized units such as PSRT or K9. Yes, we can. We're police officers first. We just happen to be working in a traffic unit, but a police officer who qualifies for whatever job they're applying for within the service can transfer if they go through the application process and do well. But it isn't just I want to go there, so I do. It's definitely an application and interview situation. Mac Teaser says, keep right except to pass. It seems like a lot of drivers do not follow the rule and simply impede traffic. We need signs posted as a reminder. This is basics of driving. But even the speeders don't, they need to stay out of the left lane except when actively passing. That means pass the vehicle, move over. Speeders shouldn't be speeding, of course. They should be losing their licenses. But if you're not actively passing another vehicle, not just going the fastest, you should be out of the left lane. Okay. doing my best to pay attention to the folks over on Instagram. But if you want to see a bigger version of the image, go to TrafficCop.ca. Choose from any of the other platforms. Instagram seems to be the least conforming at the moment in terms of connectivity with our other platforms, our stuff that manages the chat. So if you'd like to be more recognizable as a person asking a question, jump over. You can even go to youtube.TrafficCop.ca. Okay. Michael wants to know more about keys. So see, I figured there's lots of questions that are going to come about that. So we'll join them all together. And as a reminder, please put the letter Q in front of the question so I know it's a question. Another one from Moto Windsor. Questions about exhaust. We'll cover that in a second. How long does a warning stay on your system? Okay, we'll talk about that. TPS Northern Pike says TPS on Twitter should advertise you're doing live stream. Every time I tell people there's a live stream, they seem interested. I appreciate that. We do post it. We post it on my channel or my TikTok, my Twitter account. Yeah. And then we retweet it with the Traffic Services account. We tag the Toronto Police main account. Whether they retweet it every single day is probably a little more than they're looking to get into. I'm pretty active, but they got other stuff they're doing there as well. So it would be great. It would be even better if they could automate it. But we announce it basically every night before, except today I announced it in the morning. Okay, we got, is answering questions on a ride program mandatory? There are things you have to respond to. There's things you must comply with. You must identify. You must answer the basic stuff. And you have to comply with demands that are lawful demands, like providing a breath sample. But you have to tell me where you were and what you did? Not really. Question about taillight tint and headlight tint. We'll talk about that. Greg Marshall says, good morning. I love this question. This is a question about, I'm putting it on screen out of order, but it's just so much fun. They want to know if, I have seen police cars turn on their lights, the clear traffic light, then off after they cross the intersection. You have, and for good reason. It's the only time we are required by law to activate our lights and sirens. It's to clear a signalized intersection, displaying a red signal to us. In order to cross that, we have to come to a stop, activate our lights and sirens, and then ensure it's safe to proceed, and only then can we continue through. We don't have to keep them on after we've crossed through, because getting to where we have to go in a safe and timely manner is generally safer and faster without our lights and sirens on, despite common belief that we should have them on all the time. No, because people do the darndest things when we turn our lights and sirens on, like stopping right in front of us and causing a traffic jam, or a hazard for us. So it's not the way we roll. We do it this way. Let's see here. A Yogi Berra quote for a little while from now. Okay. If my U.S. license is suspended, can I use my Canadian license if I have both? Well, you can't legally have both. You can have one or the other. You have to surrender your Ontario license when you apply for a license somewhere else, and vice versa. That's how it's supposed to go. And if you have both and you're suspended somewhere else, you would be suspended here. We would know, because if you're in Ontario driving on anything other than your Ontario license, you're going to get in trouble. Plus, we like to talk American and Canadian and interprovincially and interstate. Yeah, that's a bad day at the office. Don't do that. Let's see here. I see many people flash signal then merge. Do you have to continue signaling till a merge is complete? You have to signal your intention to change direction or change lanes. I would continue signaling until you're in the place you're planning to go. That's the whole idea. It's not just signal before and then what if you change your mind? What if the signal was a mistake? Like signal the whole thing. At the end of the day, it's going to come to what the officer's observations were. Okay. Let's go back to some stuff that is... Okay, I'm going to flag that so I know where to go. And we're back to Moto Windsor's first question of, do I need to have a clear view to my back window? Can I have balloons in my back seat? This is a really great question. So as long as you have a clear view to the rear of the vehicle by way of mirrors, then no, you don't have to have a clear view through the back window. That's the deal. So think about a panel truck, a box truck. They have no rear window. They have a door. Sometimes they don't even have a connection to the rear of the vehicle, an 18-wheeler. You have to have a clear view to the rear by way of mirror, or now with new technology, I would say video. but not necessarily through the window? Yeah, it's a good question, right? Let's see here. Dad joke we'll leave for later. So let's tackle the keys. So what many people are talking about, and obviously misunderstanding, if you're asking me if I should leave the keys outside of your home, because that would be ridiculous. No, the suggestion is that if you are trying to prevent bodily harm, because armed bad persons are kicking in doors and looking for keys, and if they don't find the keys, they might be finding you to get you to give them the keys. I know of many stories where people have lost some teeth because they've had firearms pushed into their face. Bad things have happened. People have been assaulted, and it's not to try and scare people. It's just to give you information that is real so that you can make decisions. If you can put your keys somewhere that is not necessarily outside of your house, because that, again, would be ridiculous, but inside your home, maybe on the hook where you normally would keep keys in some homes, in a Faraday pouch so that relay theft is dealt with. You still do all the things, all the safety protocols, all the anti-theft things, good lighting, video cameras, kill switch if you've got the ability to do that. There's interrupt packages where you can actually require a password to punch into your keyboard or your steering wheel buttons to actually activate your ability to drive. But if they're coming looking for keys, better they should find them and move on with their day as opposed to finding you and potentially hurting you. So that's where it comes to. That's all about what it is. Now, Michael had the follow-up question. How is it about safety to leave keys at the front door? To be truly safe, at least, and have at least amount of disturbance? To be truly safe and have the least amount of disturbance, why not leave them at the porch? I don't think we should accept crime as normal. No, again, not outside, and people are making lots of comments, but, in the States, there'd be I took a course years and years ago. And people say, well, if we were in the States, we would just take care of things the old-fashioned way. No, you can't, because people with concealed weapons permits can't open fire on a car thief. That's not lawful. So really, it's all about protecting life. That's what we're interested in. Yeah, we'll catch the bad guys and deal with the reports for your vehicle. But at the end of the day, all of the most important tips are to keep you safe. Yeah. All right. Am I allowed to tint my headlights or taillights? No. Well, headlights, absolutely not. Taillights must be discernible at 150 meters, which means they have to be not only visible when they're on, but you have to be able to determine the difference between on and braking. And if you can't, they're not meeting the requirements, and then you get tickets. Okay, what else can I? But headlights is any tint at all, absolutely legal. You can only project light in white or yellow. Anything else will be bad. You're going to get tickets. All right, we talked about this. We already covered that one, but I just forgot to unflag it. Okay. Now, how long do you need? What is this? How long do you need to be stopped at a red light to make a right turn? Saw a story in Ottawa that says they got a ticket for stopping for 1.8 seconds. I don't know if that is accurate. I haven't seen the article. Generally speaking, the 1.8 seconds, if you see on a red light camera, is to suggest you crossed over the stop bar 1.8 seconds after it turned red. So if you were still in motion as you were, traveling past that stop sign, or stop line, I should say, it was 1.8 seconds into that. That's what the clock is. Now, if you can send me a link to a story that says something different, or maybe they miswrote it, but I'd love to see it, because that makes no sense. What is this? Any modified but not too loud exhausts allowed, or just flat out illegal? So in the province of Ontario, it's not about modified versus not modified. It's about lawful. Now, in Ontario, again, 74 decibels is what the average exhaust system is supposed to be rated for to meet standard. Now, take that aside. It doesn't matter what your exhaust is rated for, because if you're generating an unreasonable amount of noise. Let's say you take your brand new car off the showroom floor with a stock exhaust system, and you decide to drive everywhere in first gear, causing it to make noise. That's unnecessary noise. Forget about the exhaust. Again, turn up your stereo to full blast and roll down your windows. That's unnecessary noise. If you're honking your horn for no reason, maybe the Jays won, I don't know, Maple Leafs got the whatever, it's unnecessary noise. Could you get tickets for it? Yes, and likely you would. Now, if your vehicle has a damaged muffler, absolutely, you can also get a ticket for a improper muffler. If it's a muffler that is modified and doesn't meet the grade because at idle it's making too much noise and above idle it's making too much noise, it's beyond that of just behavior. It's just by defect or because of modification. Then you get an improper muffler ticket as well. If it was removed entirely, you get a no muffler ticket in addition to the unnecessary noise. What else? Something else I was going to talk about. Bylaw tickets in the city of Toronto. It used to be that motorcycles were eligible for tickets if they were idling at 92 decibels or more. But that's been amended. It now reads motor vehicle idle at 92 decibels or 96 decibels at anything above idle. And guess what? It's a $500 ticket, which is probably not fun for most people. Actually, I imagine it's not fun for anybody. Let's see here. What is it? Shug machine. How long does a warning stay in the system for? Warnings are internal notes. They stay forever. We have no deletion. It's not on your record. It's on our file. If somebody from another police service that uses the same system, we would be able to share that information with them. And the idea is to say that, you know what, on Monday, you got a warning for your exhaust. On Tuesday, you're still driving with it because you got stopped again. You got the warning yesterday. On Friday, you got another. You shouldn't be getting more than one warning, right? We warned you about it. You didn't immediately repair it. You get a ticket. Now, that's not to say that I would give you a warning. I might just give you a ticket. Why do I need to give you a warning? You're breaking the law. Warnings are for usually minor offenses. You forgot your driver's license, but you were also speeding. I give you the ticket for speeding, give you a warning for your license, or maybe I give it to a ticket for everything. It really depends. Depends. Okay. So we talked briefly about this. Is answering questions at a ride program mandatory? So again, as a driver of a motor vehicle in Ontario, you're obligated to identify yourself, but you don't have to tell me where you're coming from, where you're going to. In a ride program, those conversations are generally for the purposes of determining how much alcohol or if you have any alcohol in your system. Because when you're speaking, air is leaving your body. That air might smell like alcohol. We might be forming a suspicion that you have alcohol. But with mandatory alcohol screening, we can actually make a demand without suspicion. So I can stop everybody who comes to a ride program and demand alcohol screening device test be implemented. So if you choose to be uncooperative, I might be suspicious of you without the mandatory alcohol screening. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So is it mandatory? There's certain things, yes, and we'll explain that to you. All right, we talked about headlights hint ready. That's a repeat. We talked about this going through lights business. And Tamaz says, can video of someone speeding taken by a civilian be used to give tickets? Not exactly. If there's information, if there's enough information in the video to give us time, date, location, identification of the driver, and identification of the vehicle, and the person who took the video is willing to swear to its contents, then it is possible that be used to lay charges. But it's more rare than that. And speeding, how would we establish the speed? Some offenses, yes. And very often, especially when it's extreme, very often people put pictures up or videos up on their own accounts, and that is great evidence because we start the investigation there. And it continues after the investigation moves on. So, yeah, sometimes yes, most of the time no. Most of the offenses require us to be in person and identify you. And so rarely does that information in the videos be sufficient. That's not speaking normally, but yeah, it's rare. It's rare that video has enough information for us to lay charges, but very often it's enough for us to send a letter saying, hey, at this date and time you were observed being a bonehead. How about you stop that? And of course, that stays forever too. Customer support. Okay. How much can your tires poke out of your fenders? Well, they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be covered by fender flare, and mud flap. So they technically shouldn't be poking out. And then beyond that, I've been told a quarter inch is reasonable, but that's not anywhere in law that I can see that. So generally speaking, or to be letter of the law, it should be covered. Can't be rooster tailing or snagging your tires on people and things and stuff. Cassandra, we talked about this already, but I'll put it on the screen. Do you know the cop that told us to leave our car keys accessible to break-ins? Yes, I do, and he's correct in the information he's providing. He's saying that if someone's going to break into your home to get the keys, don't make it more difficult to find them, because they just come, armed and dangerous and drag you out of bed so that you can be made to give them the keys. I'm sure you don't need that trauma in your life. So they say, and this has been the party line provided by our community police, what is it, CPU? The Community Police Engagement Unit has said for quite some time, make them more accessible. If they're already in the house, they've gone through that threshold, they're willing to break in, better they get the keys and move on with their day than to deal with you. So I hope that clears it up. No one's suggesting they should be outside. They should put a sign saying, find me here. We're not saying don't do all of the other things that are being required of you in terms of Faraday bags and kill switches and ODB2 port blockers. And, there's a ton of things you can do to make yourself or your vehicle less attractive for theft. But if they're willing to go that next step, I don't think you want to deal with them. Okay. Is it legal to if I watch your live while driving? No, it's not legal. In fact, it's a great way to get a ticket. And I've had people who've been arrested for impaired driving, throw my name and saying, "Hey, I watch PC Shapiro. Does he work in this building?" Yeah, just because you're watching good information doesn't mean you get an exemption to driving with a handheld communication or entertainment device. So no, don't do that. But you know what you can do, and what would be totally legal. Let me put it on screen for you. Download the episodes afterwards. Don't watch them live. Download them, synchronize them to your device, and then you can listen to them while you drive. That would be illegal. That is okay. Because it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts. I think Google's gone, but basically all the platforms that can be shared through the links that we were able to put into the device, made it go everywhere. So most of your favorite platforms will support us. Just going to look over at the gram for a second. Mac Teaser says, thank you, Toronto Police Service, for the very educational Q&A for all. You're very welcome. And McBain says, do you miss being part of the motor squad? Have you rode any motorcycle since your incident? Love your content. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that you appreciate and enjoy the content. I have not gone riding since. In fact, I finally took motorcycle insurance off my personal motorcycle last year. Because I've been planning to get back on the bike every year. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, I was involved in a motorcycle collision on duty with the motor squad when I was on my way back to the station, and that took me out of the game. That's sort of how I ended up, actually, it's directly how I ended up doing what I'm doing right now as a media relations officer, because I could no longer go on the road due to my injuries. And I do miss it. I miss being on the road. I miss being the kind of cop that I signed up to be. But I'm glad that I'm able to help in this way, because this is a unique thing that is really only us doing it. As far as I know, the only channel in the world that does a Q&A style traffic answer show. We're definitely the largest on TikTok in the world. I know that for certain. But I don't know about anywhere else. I haven't been looking for competition, but we're doing pretty cool things, and I quite like it. But would I be on a motorcycle if I could tomorrow? Yeah, I would. It's part of who I is. it's something I've been doing since I was 16. I love riding, but I have to be realistic about safety, my safety, and that if something should happen to me, I have to worry about my family too. Apparently, they don't like the idea of me riding anymore. Okay. How do we report a cyber bully? Well, you know what? First thing first is report it immediately to the online platform that you're on. Platforms like TikTok take safety very, very seriously. They have an entire team dedicated to tracking that information. So when you make a report, it does go somewhere. I would suggest screen grabbing it before you make the report, and also calling your local police, because they also take it very seriously. Okay. What is this? Z content. If a car goes through a red light camera and the officer noticed the offense, can you give them a ticket on top of the camera? I see. Okay. So police officer, I think I just downloaded a video that I saw on TikTok yesterday. We're planning to make a response video. Anyway, you're going through a red light. You get snapped by the actual red light automated enforcement camera, and a police officer witnesses it as well, can the officer write a ticket? Yes, the officer can absolutely write the ticket. And that ticket comes with demerit points if you're convicted, while the camera ticket does not. So which one holds up? So you could be charged from both. But when you're charged with the first one, I imagine that once you're convicted or pay, you could take the receipt or evidence of that to the court for the other and not be charged, or at least not be convicted of both. So one becomes a defense for the other, or at least a status of time served to some degree that it's been dealt with. Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go. But can we charge you? Yes, we can. Ours is the higher priority. All right. Interesting. Why is it illegal to put a cover on the rear license plate, but it's okay to cover the front plate? It's not. It's illegal to cover either plate. You're not allowed to cover your plates. You can't put frames in them, covers in them, nothing. And I know that some officers have said, well, I get why you're doing it on the front, so you can cover that one, but it's not okay to cover the rear because that one's important. No, they're both important. The regulation says you can't cover either one of them. You'd be charged a $110 fine for obscuring your plate, and rightfully so. We need to be able to read those plates. Our automatic license plate readers need to be able to read those plates, and covering them up is really only for one reason. It's to avoid detection. I know that some people think it looks cool to have a tinted plate cover, but no dice. Not cool. Cool doesn't count. Okay. Good morning, Vern, who asks, good morning from Vern, who asks in BC, on a whole bunch of stuff just updated. Let me scroll on back. Here we go. In BC, cars have to be equipped with daytime running lights. Or are you asking me, do they have to? Or are you making a statement? Because new manufactured vehicles have to have them. But in terms of whether you have to have daytime running lights as a provincial mandate for all vehicles, I couldn't speak to that. In Ontario, new cars obviously come from factory with them. If they broke, do you have to repair them? You have to have headlights on during certain times. And those headlights, if you don't have them on, would result in tickets. But there's no lack of daytime running lights ticket in Ontario. And Vel wants to know, who makes sure that cops who are having a bad day don't take it out on us with bad attitude? Maybe that's just who they are all the time. I couldn't tell you. Like, cops are people, and good days or bad days, we tend to be pretty smooth on the every way we treat people is the same. But sometimes people are people, and bad days do shake through. In terms of if you're breaking the law and you don't like the fact that you got a ticket, that's probably not them having a bad attitude. It's you probably being a bad driver. If they're rude, that's a different story. If they're rude in response to your rudeness, that's probably them just trying to, make it equal. So if you speak in a way that's rude, maybe they're trying to be rude back so that you understand the same language. But if you're polite, I can't imagine anyone being rude to you. And if they are, put in a complaint because you can do that. Okay, CD says, if you're let off with a warning, is it on record that you've been pulled over? If it's a verbal warning and we did no paperwork, we're going to make a note in our book, so it's on record there. It's on video, obviously, because everything we do is on video. But it's not on record like somebody could search it easily. But there would be a record of it to some degree. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, we run stuff. When we run your plate, it's recorded that we ran your plate, so there's a record of it there. But it's not the same as a record of the interaction. It's not carding. Okay, what rights do you have defending your home to a home? What rights do you have defending yourself to a home invasion? So you're allowed to use as much force as necessary. You're allowed to protect yourself and your family. Obviously, you're allowed to prevent people from breaking into your home. Are you allowed to go off and go Wild West on somebody? That would probably land you in a situation where you're charged criminally. You have to. You can only do what's reasonable. And this isn't an instruction guide as to how to defend yourself. You're going to do what you're going to do, and then police are going to attend, and there may or may not be charges laid. But many people would rather be charged than to be hurt. So that's the decision that individuals make. Let's see here. How do you keep your sanity engaging with the internet comments on a constant basis? Some days are harder than others. But I appreciate the question. You know what? people have legitimate concerns, legitimate questions. My goal is to answer them. I don't have a dog in the fight. Whether you choose to follow the advice and the education is up to you. And then the people who take that information can do what they want with it. They get in trouble for not following it. They don't get in trouble if they do. But again, this is all informational, educational, and it doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't agree. That's mostly because I don't have any feelings. I say that as a joke. It's an ongoing shtick that traffic cops don't have feelings. I do want to talk about not education, but employment, because so many people want to become traffic cops. Actually, I was really impressed. A while back, I spoke at Humber College to a class of students who were going through police foundations, and I was approached after the lecture that I gave, and a young man said, you know, when I joined up to become or not joined up the police, but became a police foundation student and decided I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a tactical officer. I thought that was the best way to make a change and be useful, and that was my dream. He says, but after watching you on Ask a Traffic Cop and getting really interested in traffic, I want to be a traffic cop. And that made my day. Whether he was telling the truth or lying to me, I don't know, but it worked. I felt good about it. But if you'd like to become a member of the police service, if you'd like to be involved in contributing to your community, being a member of the police service is a great way to do it. You don't have to be a police officer, but being involved with your community is a wonderful thing. Now, let's see here. We go to, I meant to do this. Hang on, it didn't work. Different button. Here we go. TPS.ca. I moved things around this morning. TPS.ca/careers will get you to this magical page of smiling, happy people because they're all employed for the service. If you scroll down, you get a list of different positions that are available, or at least headings. They may not necessarily be open, but police constable is the most popular one, I would imagine. And you can apply by going to this page and clicking apply now. But before you decide to apply, read everything there is to know on this page. Get to know it, know what the requirements are. Worst thing in the world is to get through, to the next level of process, only to be told you didn't read something, you didn't know something, and you're not eligible. You wasted their time, your time, and nobody's happy. So you can also get a hold of different officers who are involved in the recruiting process, find out how much money we make, what the benefits are, but it's a whole bunch of info, and it's all good info. Now, police officer is not the only position we have. Special constable is how I started the job. Back then it was called court officer, and we did prisoner transportation and courthouse security. Now that is expanded. There's more positions available within the umbrella of special constable. Of course, we have parking enforcement officer. Those are the people who keep our city moving. It's a fantastic job. I applied for it once upon a time. I was a special constable. I wanted to go out and see sunlight because I was working in the cells, and I thought I would be making a good change. Did not end up making that move, for better or for worse. And communications operator are those magical people who answer the phone, taking your 911 calls, and then the call takers send the information over to the dispatchers who actually tell police officers where to go. Sometimes they really do tell us where to go. Lateral hire is for police officers from another agency wanting to move over. Auxiliary officer is another way that I started. Actually, it's the very first way I started with the service was as a volunteer. Best volunteer experience possible. We call ourselves checkerheads, or maybe people call us checkerheads, but it's because we have checkers on our hat bands. Unpaid, uniformed volunteer civilian role. Fantastic opportunity, seeing your city in a way you've never seen it before. But then it gets to this page. I like civilian roles. Why? Because there's so many different positions. People, don't generally consider the police to be more than policing. But we have law clerks and nurses, and here's a clerk in court services, a leave of absence coordinator, communications operator we talked about, solutions architect, you're a computer person, senior analyst Azure integration platforms. There's lots of opportunities, and this changes all the time. You'll see that this was posted on the 29th of March. Sorry, must apply. It's the cutoff is the 29th of March. When did it get posted? I thought I was reading. Anyway, check it regularly, see if there's something you'd be interested in applying for, and then apply, because that's the only way you're going to get hired is if you actually apply. All right, let's get back to your questions. And I will sip on things that are sippy. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Where did I leave these? A whole bunch of stuff has come up. Somebody with the name Desert Eagle popped into the, I wonder if they think they're a Desert Eagle or they're making reference to the firearm, which happens to be made by IWI, an Israeli firearms company. Really cool gun. I got to fire it in .357 and .44 Magnum. I've never actually fired it in .50 caliber, which is what the big one that they talk about in the movies all the time is. CA Froggy CA. What are you going to do when you're out of a job? Why am I out of a job? Maybe when I retire? I don't know. Probably relax. Okay. We got... okay. User says you can listen to the voice only, but not with the video. Yes, if you are on TikTok, you can actually close the screen, listen to the audio only, and still listen live, and that would be legal. The issue is you can't have it. So if you're listening on YouTube, you can, if you don't pay for the subscription, you can't do that. As soon as you turn off the phone screen, it cuts the feed. So, yeah. It's much cheaper not to burn your data. Depending on how much data you have, maybe you don't care. Oh, it's Desert Eagle. Here we go. Desert Eagle who says, corrupt police. No. Why do you think that? I like people who make announcements like that, but don't back it up with any kind of allegation other than, I don't like being told what to do, which is usually what the standard or the situation is. What do you have here? Greg Marshall's talking to Vern about vehicles built after a certain date, but I don't know the context. So you'd have to ask again if there's still a question outlying. Can I pay my fine in donuts? I don't think they will accept donuts. Just a guess. Tristan Wilson says, do you understand how ridiculous this sounds instead of the actual plan to deal with the thefts? I think people are getting really bent out of shape and confused. The concept of leaving keys at the front door, which I assume is what you're making reference to, is not to make it easier to steal. It's to make it less likely that you will get hurt. We're not in your house protecting you in the middle of the night. We're responding to calls for service. And if your alarm's going off, there's going to be a period of time until people arrive. In that time, bad things can happen. So I understand why people are upset. Car theft is a car stolen in Canada every 5 seconds. No, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, not 5 seconds. That's frustrating. There's crime all over the place. I understand why it's frustrating. But unless you have what Mike has, 150-pound Rottweiler, nobody's coming in. By the way, dogs are one of the best deterrents for break-ins. 100%, one of the best. Even if it's a little dog. Noise inside the house. Someone who responds to that noise, like the dog being someone who responds, because some people are heavy sleepers. They're not going to be getting up, and all the people with all these big plans that they're going to take a baseball bat and they're going to protect themselves. Weapons can be taken from you and used against you. And if they have bigger, badder weapons, it's a bad day at the office. Anyway, I understand it's a very polarizing conversation, but we're not telling people to stop doing the things to make your vehicle less attractive to auto theft. We want thieves to look at your car, see all the things you've done to make it less interesting to steal, less easy, and move on to the next house. And hopefully they have the same things and they just change their life and become people who volunteer. I don't know. Okay. What about more cops to prevent the theft in the first place? Agreed. We're hiring, I think, 400 this year. We are understaffed. Most police services are understaffed. So yeah, more cops is better. But even then, we're not going to hang out at the front of your street. Like, you still have to do things to make your vehicle less interesting to thieves. Okay. Someone says, the cop that hates motorcycles because he got into I don't hate motorcycles. I love motorcycles. What are you talking about? I love people who read a comment and make an assumption. I don't hate motorcycles. I enforce laws. Sometimes motorcycle riders break laws. Those people deserve tickets. It's got nothing to do with my love or hate for motorcycles. I absolutely love motorcycles. If I could make a motorcycle that would carry my entire family and they'd be willing to go with me, I'd be all over it. Okay. Okay. A lot of people, very tough. I like this. Mike says, I don't care who breaks into my house and takes me on my own hands. That person is not coming out. Okay. Again, lots of tough people, but I know someone who lost their front teeth when, a gun was stuffed in their mouth. So bad things happen. Paula. Okay, I see your comment. What happens if what is this? So, what happens if I try and hurt the thugs back? Losing my vehicle will cost me a job. See, people can defend themselves. Hey, how you doing? But it's not always a good idea to. It's not always a good idea to fight back. When someone's coming by who's armed, we're suggesting that, like in a what's it called, carjacking situation, we don't say, put up your dukes and fight it out. It's a car. It's insured. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Scrolling through. Let's get to some questions.
How is everybody today?
Some people are very upset about some information that was shared in the media, and I think misunderstood. And this is the discussion about car theft. And some people say, "Oh, we're being told to put the keys outside of the house so people don't break in." That's not the advice given.
Not at all.
But so I see on the door.
So how about by the door in a Faraday box so it can't be used during
For relay.
Theft, but they don't have to come in your house and harm you further and the rest of your family while they're trying to take what they want to take, and sometimes with violence.
And that's the ultimate thing. We want you to be safe. That's why we have insurance. And I'm not saying it's perfect, because you're going to get possibly a car, maybe not the model you like, and maybe it's going to cost you more. Like, this is not a good situation.
Nope.
And ideally, catching bad guys is what we'd like to do, but we can't stop everybody everywhere from doing bad things.
Although we'd like to.
Yes, we would. Okay. I'm going to skip through. We've talked about this enough. But I see a lot of comments all about the same topic, because people are, it really is something that it's upsetting.
I would be upset if my vehicle was stolen. I would be more upset if I, my family, my neighbors were traumatized by the senseless violence that these people are willing to perpetrate to innocent people that are doing everything lawful. It's disgusting. It really is.
Now, one person commented and said that I just said that you'd be charged if you hurt a thief. It's not that if you'd be charged if you hurt a thief. If you use unnecessary force, and that's a legal thing. It's not like there was a situation where somebody broke in or tried to rob a store, and that storekeeper then beat the guy up with a baseball bat.
Yes, outside of the store after the robbery had occurred.
Yeah, and the guy was originally armed with a knife, from my understanding.
Yep.
But when the threat is no longer real or immediate, the person's running away. There's all sorts of different levels of what you can do, and you're responsible for what you do just as much as they're responsible for what they do.
Just like every police officer is responsible for how much force they use on any person, and they have to be and they're held accountable for anything in excess of what is reasonable and necessary to affect the purpose.
A question of I don't know what that is. So something about roofs. I don't know what the
roofs.
The question is about roof toppers, but I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Driver's licenses. Are you a traffic cop?
Yes.
Yes. Do you need to go to Ontario Police College to become a cop? Yes. All police officers in the province of Ontario had to have graduated or have equivalency with the Ontario Provincial College.
Right. So you don't actually have to go to the Ontario Police College. You have to have an equivalent training. So the RCMP College, the Atlantic Police College, I believe the Quebec Police College as well, will give you the equivalent. And then you come to the specific service.
Our police college.
And then you get trained on the way Toronto does things, or the way the OPP does things, or the service that you're going to, how they do things. So the more you have to learn the basics of the police college. And the basics are the basics across Canada. And then you get the more provincial finite ones here at our own police college.
Now, Dale says there's a growing number of people who are stopping at red lights on right-hand turns. Yes, it is a huge problem. It is one of my biggest pet peeves.
I agree. I have actually been in court when the red light camera tickets have been challenged. And people said, well, yeah, I didn't have to. I was making a right. It doesn't matter. No, you have to come to a complete stop. Just like every police officer who's allowed to go through the red light has to come to a complete stop beforehand and only proceed when it's safe to do so. Exactly the same as everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And yet I see 5 cars in a row make right-hand turns and no one stops. It's boom, boom, boom. There's some confusion there. And I'm told in some countries it's not required. Maybe they're from there, maybe not. I don't know. Any way you cut it, not good. Okay. Ian,
Are you making me loud?
I'm making you louder because I noticed that I was louder. Now you're louder, so now we're all loud.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm preparing to be a cop in Toronto. Level 7 for shuttle run is too hard right now. It is too hard all the time, but I still had to do it to get in. And it's mind over matter. You can do it. Train for it. Don't give up. It's mindset. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's just a matter of putting your mind to it and training specifically for it. There's some tips. I don't know what just because you can run in one straight line does not make you good at that.
That's correct.
It's what's it called? NO2 max testing. That's what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't have to actually do it.
Yours was a mile and a half.
Mine was a 1.5 mile run timed, and that was the standard of the time. And it changes and it gets more realistic as time goes on because they find that, they have to keep the running standards up. In some ways it's easier. In some ways it's harder.
Well, I know marathon runners, or I've been told about marathon runners who have failed the shuttle run because they can do the sustained long thing, but it's the short bursts that are required for that. Now Yorkshire's showing off, says level 7's nothing. I'd be scoring 9s. And there are people, when I went through, there was a guy that they had to tell him to stop running. He was just like the wind.
Yep.
And I will say he was tall and he was slim, and I am tall and not slim. I'm a heavier guy, and it's just not easy to accelerate and decelerate and pivot and turn. But I didn't.
Yep, because you had to.
I had to.
And you had no choice. So you work extra hard at it. You try and bring whatever qualities you have that are a little bit lower, you try and work on those to bring them high.
And practice with a goal of getting higher than the requirements. If you can practice to 8, then 7 on test day will be easy because you know you can go to 8.
Right.
And even though I don't think I could do 8 with a rocket pack on, I don't think it'll work. Anyway, what is a special constable officer? It's simple. A special constable is a civilian role. They're not sworn 24/7 as police officers. They don't change their status. But during the hours that they are working, they are given extra authorities under the act.
Well, it's only under certain acts, and it is the chief of police who decides what act they're allowed to be enforcing or given the powers of a peace officer within that act. TTC special constables have the powers of arrest, have the powers to write their own tickets as a provincial offences officer. They can direct traffic, all in relation to their property. They can't go out and do that willy-nilly wherever they feel like. So it's limited to a certain thing. Toronto Police special constables have certain roles. We have them as booking officers. We have them as crime scene officers. We have them as divisional support officers. And they're there.
And court officers?
And court officers.
We both started as court officers.
We were both court officers, like you said. And we were given the powers for that specific purpose, only while we're working.
But it's a great place to start. It's a great place to have an entire career. There are many people who start and finish their careers there. Others use it as a stepping stone. It's a good job and meaningful. It does good things. Like being able to offload certain responsibilities to special constables allow more police officers to return to the road to continue their duties and be available for calls. So very, very useful. Let's see here. As a dad joke, will you guys give tint tickets?
Depends.
I would say just yes. Like I would. If it qualifies, if there's a violation there, then I would, as opposed to I could.
Yeah, tint is one of those things that I guess one of the biggest safety thing is when you're operating a vehicle, you have to be able to see out. And if your tint is too dark, then it's hindering the light entering your car, allowing you to see. I saw a pickup truck, a fairly new pickup truck this weekend, and the front windshield was tinted. And unfortunately, it wasn't working because, yes, that one would have come completely off the road. And I would have had the license plates, and it would have been returned to the ministry.
I saw a G-Wagon. I saw a G-Wagon, and the windows looked opaque. Like front windshield completely blacked out. I have no idea how they could see anything. Yep. Maybe they had radar or some kind of device, and it was nearly opaque.
So there's a ticket for obscuring the interior. So when we can't see in or people can't see in, there's a ticket for the film that goes on there if it's reflective or too dark. But if combination of the two of them make it so bad, then it's an unsafe motor vehicle. You can't operate it, and we take the license plates and tow it away.
But there's also tickets if you're obscuring the interior. You mentioned that there's a ticket for obscuring the driver's view. There's another, so you can get 2 tickets, each with $110, and then you could also be classified as an unsafe motor vehicle, and your plates can be taken. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. None of them are fun for the driver, and the truth is, those windshield and dark tints that obscure the ability for people outside of the vehicle to see in really cause stress and anxiety for pedestrians, cyclists, other motorists who are looking for those nonverbal cues, trying to make eye contact with the driver to be able to understand what you're going to do. Not to mention police officers who are looking from an officer safety perspective. When pulling you over, is there something in that car that we need to know about? Are you wearing your seatbelt? Are you using your cell phone? Are you up to no good? What's going on? So there's a lot of reasons why tint is bad. I got pulled over and was told, we're going to let you go with a warning. Just drive safe. Our warning's recorded on someone's record.
Was it a written warning? And depends on what police service issued it. So the Toronto Police Service will give you a written warning. It does stay in our database. It is available for us and other police services to view should you get pulled over for the same offense again. I'm going to suggest, now it's up to every individual officer, but if you've had a warning for the same thing previously and you get pulled over for the same thing again, you're pretty much going to get a ticket that time.
And not
almost guaranteed.
Yeah, but I'm not a big warning person. My warnings were issued when you done something big, you got the ticket for the big thing because that was a dangerous thing. You had a minor thing. And I'm going to be the nice guy and give you the minor thing off sometimes.
Yep, I agree.
But unless you decide you're going to be something next level for rude, and then maybe you get all the tickets. It's kind of choose your own adventure. All right. Did anyone ask about auto theft? Yeah, we've talked about it a lot this episode. Questions about you can't pay. What is this? Can't pay a fine in cash. That's not us. You don't pay it to us. It's the court system. As a theft prevention officer, can I leave my work site with my baton in my bag? So a baton is not a prohibited weapon. It is a weapon. And are you allowed to own it and transport it? Yeah.
Depends on what you're using it for at the time you're using it.
Yeah.
Just like a baseball bat. Is it a weapon?
Can be.
Is it a prohibited weapon?
No.
No. And if you're using it to play baseball or walking to the baseball diamond with it, then there's not a problem with it.
But going to and from work is a reasonable use.
Absolutely. Same thing, I use the example of a machete. So up in my cottage, I have a machete. I use it for hacking down brush and overgrowth and things like that. But if I brought that exact same machete that I'm allowed to have and started walking around downtown Toronto with it, have it strapped to my belt or something like that,
could be weapons, dangerous, cause. What is the word? There's a word for it for causing panic or.
So, it has to be appropriate. If you are walking to and from work with your baton in your bag, and it stays in your bag, that is fine. If you bring it out to use it as a weapon, then it's a weapon.
Indeed. Yorkster says, "Do you read TikTok chats more than the others?" No, I read them all. As long as they're all coming through, I read them all. Sometimes the questions tend to be more from one than the other, but I'm not ignoring one for another platform. Let's see here.
And if you actually have a legitimate question, put a Q in front of it so we can see it easier.
Yes, and that's a lot of that. I try and skim through for the Qs because some of this is banter amongst people, just chat. It's not for me to read, or at least it's not stuff that is to be shared with everybody else. Can you do a citizen's arrest on a cop if you see them commit a crime? This is one that, two things are present. One, call the police, report police to the police. We want to find bad cops. If you know of a cop that is involved in criminal activity, that's something you should be reporting to police. I would definitely not suggest a citizen's arrest where you walk up to someone and said, "Excuse me, I'm arresting you." It's not going to go well for you, especially if they're a criminal.
Right, absolutely. And you must know your powers of arrest, and it has to be legitimate and justified and lawful. If you walk up and stop a police officer and advise them under arrest and you're not lawful, you may find yourself under arrest for the same thing. So, and you know what? There are certain sections of the criminal code where it allows us to commit a crime. We have an exemption. So, on certain instances. So.
My program says this is not how to do live streams. You take 15 minutes to answer one question and ignore the others. We do our very best, and sometimes we go much longer than we plan to. It's a 1 hour live stream. Sometimes we go 2 hours because there are just so many questions. But these are questions that can't be answered in yes, no, not really. Like they need some information shared. So I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I'm assuming that they're talking about the vehicle theft and keys question. Went a little long.
Which one? I don't know. Yeah, it did go a little long because it's a touchy subject. People are really upset. Let's see here. There's boom, boom, boom. Is there any solution that you can think of for car theft on the car theft topic? There's lots. In fact, we just put out an episode on Friday. You can get it on our YouTube page and our Twitter page. And it was an interview with the CAA insurance people, and it talked about all the suggestions for how you can make your vehicle less attractive. And those are all things that we support. I think there's some great technology. Have you seen the devices that can be hidden in your vehicle where you have to punch in a combination on your keyboard? So even if you have the key, you can't start it.
Yep.
And I think that's a great solution.
The problem is it takes somebody's knowledge to be able to start it.
Mm-hmm.
And does that mean more people are going to be in danger because they're going to be demanding that knowledge?
Same as having your keys available.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
So, you know what? It's a tricky, slippery slope that we go down. I honestly believe that car manufacturers play a huge role in what is happening right now. I believe that, especially with the relay thefts and things like that, where you don't need a key vehicle reprogramming, they could certainly make it a little bit tougher, a lot tougher for people to do that. So the ones where they're going in and stealing their keys, those are crimes of violence. I think the best way to stop that is stop people from doing it. And
catch the bad people and put them in jail. Yeah, 100%. How about cops going in over speeding? So you mean cops who are speeding? Is that what we're talking about? Police are permitted legally to exceed the posted speed limit in the lawful execution of their duties. So if we're patrolling for traffic offenses, that's a reason we'd have to exceed the speed limit. We're not talking about going at Mach 20 necessarily, but there are times when we have to exceed the speed limit. Otherwise, we'd be effectively moving backwards. In fact, if everybody else is speeding and we're not speeding, all they're doing is passing us.
Right. How do we catch them?
Yeah.
So.
Insurance won't cover you. A bunch of people have been saying recently that when their cars are being stolen, their insurance is not replacing them. I don't know anywhere where that's the case. You have to have fire and theft on your vehicle.
Right.
If you don't, then your vehicle is not going to get covered.
I'm going to tell you, when I had my vehicle, my first, very, very first brand new vehicle I ever had, and somebody hit me at a red light and wrote it off, I didn't get the entire cost covered. And that's what made me a victim of bad driver. So no, maybe they don't cover the whole thing. Maybe that's your insurance company, that maybe you need better protections.
And there are plans you can pay a premium for same replacement as opposed to current value. There's a bunch of different things. And it's not a good thing. You're not going to win. You don't win anything for being the victim of car theft. In fact, it's going to cost you. And in a way, it costs everybody because our premiums are going up.
Yep. Time, money, and premiums.
I canceled the insurance on my motorcycle last year. My insurance is $20 higher, not lower. It's ridiculous. Either they screwed up or this is the impact of all of this this theft. And thank you, Tweet, for that. Lisa wants to know what relay theft is. Relay theft is where somebody stands by your door with an antenna, and then it takes the signal from your keychain or from your fob,
yep.
And then it's relayed to another unit near the vehicle door so that it has the information and allows it to unlock and start.
So it's just like your vehicle thinks that the key is right beside, and then that person gets inside your vehicle, and the vehicle thinks that the key is still inside and is able to start it up and drive away.
Yes. And it's but there's so many different ways. There's a ton of different ways. And they will even take a tow truck and steal it from the driveway if they really want it.
You know what? They got rid of the steering wheel locks. Back when we had a key, you actually turned the key and it unlocked the steering wheel with push button start. That's gotten rid of. So
convenience has made life easier for criminals.
Yep.
And I would absolutely, a Cadillac is allegedly, or was it Buick, they had a chip in the key that could not be copied. You had to order your keys from them. So if you didn't have the original key, you couldn't start the car, period. And that was allegedly the best system in place and has not been improved by these new technology. But I love being able to get in and press a button and go. That's awesome. And also the reason we're having a lot of the problems.
My vehicle that I have today, I won't have it tomorrow, but my vehicle I have today is an actual key. It's an actual hard key, not a push button. It has to go in. It's a specially cut key, and it works. I haven't had it stolen yet.
John Woodstock says, not misunderstood. Self-defense is important. Criminals should know they are risking their lives. It's property.
Yeah, and unfortunately, maybe that's the attitude in certain states, certain countries. Here, it is up to the government to make that decision and change the laws.
Well, I once upon a time, when living in Florida, took a concealed weapons course, and they very explicitly said, someone's driving or on your driveway, breaking in to steal your Lamborghini, can you shoot them? And a bunch of people said, yeah. And the answer was, no.
Exactly.
It's defend life, not your stuff. So, let's see here. No one knows. I don't know what we're talking about here. Talked about headlight, taillight tints earlier in the show.
Dumb ones?
Yeah. You don't do it.
Yeah.
Not lawful. A lot of people want to defend themselves and be able to do that lawfully. I understand the sentiment. That's not where we live, and that's actually not where anyone lives. There's no real Texas used to have that belief. There's the castle principles there, and different laws in different places. But if you don't like the laws here, there's opportunities to move somewhere else.
You know what? You can defend yourself, but you are responsible for any excess that you use. You have to know where the limit is. Unfortunately, the court is the one who decides where that limit is.
Why can cop cars have full tint on all windows, but civilians can't?
They can't.
They cannot. There's no exemption for tint for police, and so they're all under the same rules. The question is, in section 494, where it talks about doing citizens arrests, would that apply to police officers too?
Yeah, it could.
What are they asking? If it would apply, could a citizen arrest a police officer? Is that back to the previous question?
Yeah, I would imagine. Sure, it could.
Yeah.
Depends on the circumstances, and you better have it absolutely correct.
But also, the police officer is probably wearing a gun. And do you want to go there trying to manhandle or essentially assault a police officer? Because that's how it's going to be perceived. Mm-hmm. Call the police. Make a report. Don't try and arrest a police officer. Physically putting hands on them is probably a bad idea.
And that's why we have a rank structure in the police. Because if somebody's doing something wrong, somebody of higher rank will come out and investigate that and hold them to account and arrest them if we have to. I have, unfortunately, arrested police officers before because I've had to, because they were wrong.
Drones in communities with high-end cars, it's not that hard. This is a suggestion. So patrol neighborhoods with drones. Interesting.
Yep, that's great until the bad guys get drones. For any technology that we put out there or car manufacturers use, there's somebody that's able to hack it and get around it.
Okay. Someone says, I've sent an email, no response. I don't know what we're talking about. Salvador Dali. Would you give someone a ticket for doing 10 kilometers over if not in a school zone? Well, that is breaking the law, isn't it? Depends. In a highway, in an expressway scenario, when everyone's doing 130, but I stop the guy doing 110, I'd probably be looking for the person doing 130. But in a 30 zone, 40 zone, 50 zone, 10 over is not acceptable. 15 over and a 60, I used to stop and charge people all day long. It's 25% over the limit.
Yep. Going past a stopped emergency vehicle, 10 kilometers over, absolutely. 10 kilometers over the speed limit in a snowstorm, ice storm, rainstorm, sure I would.
In fact, you can get in trouble for doing the speed limit in inclement weather.
Yep.
It's careless. J9 to 5 says, how about deal with theft instead of TikToking? Well, we're talking about things because education is really important. And I don't go on the road. I'm an inside guy based on an injury, but I do the TikToking in social media and media relations because it's important. And if I wasn't doing it as someone who's injured, somebody who is not injured would be doing it because it's still important.
You know what? We reach more people this way. We talk to more people. We get people thinking more this way than doing it any other way. And we can do it relatively cheaply for an hour at a time. People that want to join in and ask questions can join in and get their answers, answered. Their answers answered.
It's funny how that works. Can you give a ticket for parking on a road longer than 18 hours? It's 3 hours in the city of Toronto.
Yeah, so there's a bylaw in the city of Toronto for parking, and there's also an ability under the Highway Traffic Act to remove your vehicle under 170.
I don't know about parking stuff. I really don't. I rely on our parking guru, Aaron.
So where there's not a bylaw restricting it, then the Highway Traffic Act would be able to allow it to be removed.
Now, I will tell you this. If you have an accessible permit, you're allowed to park there for 24 hours, I believe, even if it's a 3-hour bylaw.
Well, it depends on where that is. It has to be lawful to park there in the first place.
Yes, but in a no parking zone even, they can park. So there's a lot of exemptions for accessible permits.
But no standing, no stopping.
No standing, no stopping. They cannot park at all. What do we got here? New tint. Oh, so a tint statement. New tints nowadays, you can't see in, but you can see out perfectly fine. Remember, it's 2024. Guess what? If you have it tinted, you might think it's better than one way than the other way, but it's not perfectly fine. It's not 100% light. You're getting a restriction. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it on the window. It is tinting, and yeah, you can't see in, and seeing in is actually a very important component of tint. We need to be able to see in, both as police and the public.
And it's bidirectional light transfer, so 30%.
So yes, 70% of light has to get through for certification. And but even then, even if you pass it for the certification, you could still fail it because at nighttime, I
can't see it.
I can't see it.
Yep.
Yeah, simple as that. Is it illegal to drive without insurance?
Yes, very illegal.
Big time. Yes. But that's when you. It's a $5,000 to $25,000 fine and up to 6 months in jail for driving without insurance in Ontario.
For the first offense.
Yes, it goes up from there. Can you get a ticket for broken side window? Sometimes you see those cars with cardboard or fabric coverings covering the window hole.
So your car has to be able to keep the exhaust emissions out. So cardboard, not so much. Fabric, maybe not so much. But as long as it's not sharp, as long as there's not glass sticking out somewhere that is a danger, no problem at all.
In fact, you don't have to have doors. If you have a Jeep, you can drive without doors.
Yep.
So it's not about the window itself. It's about hazard. Yeah.
It just has to have the ability to block out the exhaust if you want it.
I pressed the wrong button. Hang on a second. Where'd it go? The question was, I thought it was a good question. Boom, boom, boom.
All right.
Scrolling. Cops are all bad. They cover for each other.
No, unfortunately, we don't.
Well, fortunately, we don't. Yeah, no one wants to do that.
Because nobody hates a bad cop
More than a good cop.
than good cops.
It's not your business what's in my car, says Jason.
But it is.
Truly it is.
If it's your marijuana or your beer or your gun or
Your phone or the alcohol in your hand or your seatbelt, these are all things that is absolutely our business. And your license is given to you as a benefit. It is a privilege, and it can be taken away. And it's our job to take it away when you break the rules. High beam laws. I'm blinded by someone on average 5 cars a day with high beam on. Well, they have to turn them down. If they don't, they're violating the law.
Yep. I totally get it. And you know what? With the new LED lights, even if there is extra weight in the back seat, some vehicles don't actually adjust for it.
The auto leveling.
It's the same light percentage going out. It just aimed at a different direction. So, yeah, I can see how that is absolutely blinding. I find it myself as well.
It's true. I'm looking for Jason in the chat here. We'll see if he rears his head again. Boom, boom. We pay taxes. Oh, that's him. And he says it again. What do we got here? Scrolling down. Lots of people want to carry batons and things like that. The biggest problem with batons, with weapons, is that even whether you're legally permitted to or not, it's very likely going to be used against you.
And it is a weapon. That is its sole purpose is a weapon. So if you're walking around with a weapon, then you can expect to get stopped and investigated for it.
So here's the Astro says, please take immediate action. Penalize drivers with annoying and harsh headlights. That is something that we do look at all the time. I mean, we're looking at vehicles. We're going to be blinded by a car, spin around and go pull them over. That's generally how we find them.
I was about to say, we get blinded as well. We're drivers and we're out there as well. So I agree.
While driving a vehicle, are you allowed to cross through a crosswalk if it's in use by a pedestrian? So you have to understand the rules, and this is what we're going to break down. You have to yield to a pedestrian who's legally in the crosswalk or on the roadway. And that means that you cannot go into their path. So if they've passed your half of the road and there's no crossing guard in that crosswalk, you can legally proceed through.
That's a crosswalk.
Yes.
What about a crossover?
Now, pedestrian crossover, a PXO, that's one where is not in relation to an intersection. It's just it has a lighting system. It's properly marked. PXOs, you have to wait until they're entirely off the road. Yep. So it depends on where you are, but I see people get confused. I don't see anyone stopping at PXOs.
Which is an offense, which is dangerous.
Absolutely. Okay. What's an early resolution meeting?
Well, obviously you've gotten yourself a provincial offenses ticket, and the prosecution has offered you to come in and discuss it to see if there's something that could be done to resolve it early, maybe with a lesser charge, maybe with discussion on the fine, or just to see if there's enough evidence to proceed before court. If you don't have to have an early resolution meeting, you can go straight to trial, but it's always offered out there for you. I would suggest going to it because you get to know what is being said, alleged that you did.
And if you don't like the deal, you can still proceed to court. So
Yep.
it's an option.
Absolutely.
Tweep says, why don't you ban / time out the spammers and people who are intentionally being disrespectful? Because that's a part-time or full-time job in itself. And I don't have somebody helping. We're it. When we have the ability to have someone act as our producer, they do exactly that. And it's fantastic, and I appreciate them.
And you know what? Some ignorant people do that to us in real life out on the road all the time. So it's part of the job. And you know what? We've got big shoulders, and you know what? We can deal with the ignorant people.
This is true. Imolar, I don't know how to pronounce this username. I had 2 cars stolen from me in the past year, and they followed up and said, you guys didn't do anything. Well, sometimes there isn't anything to do. You create a file, look for things, keep an eye out for the vehicle, go through to see if it's arrived anywhere else. I don't know the full investigative procedure that goes through. I'm not an auto theft specialist. But they're actively looking, and they do recover vehicles on occasion, and they do find and arrest people in relation to these. But sadly, criminals have become quite sophisticated.
Yep.
And that's networks.
I look after some of the impounding that Toronto Police does, actually all of it. And there's quite often that we find re-VIN vehicles with fake VINs on them that are traveling the roadways. We get them all the time. We actually do our best to try and find these. There are officers that are retrieving vehicles out of containers in the ports of Canada that are being shipped overseas to save our insurance company money. But we have to balance that with, do we go to the homicide that's going on? Do we go to the theft of a vehicle that's going on? And if these thefts are happening by people that don't care if they get caught and don't care who else they put in danger when they're doing it, we have to take that into account as well.
Wyatt has a question for you.
Yeah. Yes, that would be kind of cool.
Lightsabers. Yes, I think that should be the next level of. We should all become Jedis. Can we have LED light bars in a vehicle? I'm assuming you mean on a vehicle. And I've seen a bunch that are factory on off-road packages.
Yep.
But they are off-road lights. Those are not meant for the road.
Yep. I was looking at a Toyota Tundra, the TRD version that has it built into the grille. They cannot be used on the road. They are off-road only. Just like the other ones, doesn't matter how big or small of them, you're allowed a maximum of 4 lighted headlamps on the front of a vehicle at any one time, and they have a maximum candela that must be put out. Most LEDs are way above that. So are they lawful? You can have them, sure.
Not on, though.
You can't have them on the road.
Chrissy wants to know, is there a separate number for the officers who investigate police?
We have a whole bunch of people that investigate the police, not only internally, but externally and provincially and federally as well. So the Office of the Independent Police Review Directorate, OIPRD, is an independent body that is governed by the province, not by the police, and they investigate us and our actions and take the complaints of people out there. The SIU is another one who investigates our actions. If we injure somebody above a certain level, if there's a sexual assault allegation by a police officer, there's a whole bunch of different levels. Internally, we have our own professional standards, and each division has their own complaints coordinator that investigates police officers. These are all people that are higher rank than the rank and file level officers that are out on the road, and they are there to specifically do that, make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time always.
And those reports are taken seriously.
Absolutely.
Mac X05 or 005 says, can a person with a physical disability become a police officer? And it depends. There's minimum requirements that must be met. There are people who have been able to pass them. I understand one person had lost an arm.
Yep.
Was able to meet all the requirements despite the fact that they had one arm.
Yep.
So there are situations I would contact a recruiter, and they could answer that. It's a case-by-case basis, no question. Let's see here. We're going to wrap up in 10 minutes, take it right to the half hour, 10 minutes.
Are you? I'm not sticking around that long.
No? Okay. What if I see a cop on his phone or laptop while stopped at a red light? Saad Assad wants to know. And that is an interesting question. But they are legally permitted to because of an exemption under the Highway Traffic Act.
Yes. Now, they're not allowed to drive carelessly. So if they're not paying attention and they crash,
They're responsible.
they will be held accountable.
But the fact is, our job requires us to have access to information for both public and police safety. We wouldn't be able to do some of the things we need to do to keep the public safe if we couldn't have access to that information. So is it preferred? Do we acknowledge that it's less safe than not using that equipment at the time? We do. It's a calculated risk. And if we're the only ones on the road that are doing it, we're in a better place than if everybody's doing it. And the problem is everybody's doing it right now. Okay. Some people don't like the RCMP. Hey, it's not for everybody. Leonard says, we're not answering something. I don't know what your question was. Greetings. Oh. Ryan says, greetings, gentlemen. How was the weekend? Also, do either of you know if video cameras on school bus stop signs have been implemented yet? I know that the law has been changed. There are automated enforcement laws on the books for school buses, and some jurisdictions have implemented them on a trial basis. Not Toronto yet, not this area.
Yes, and it's a money thing as well. It's there to keep everybody safe. It's to stop cars from passing stop school buses with their red lights flashing and the stop arm out. I think it's fantastic technology that'll hold vehicle owners to account. Mm-hmm. Now, it's vehicle owners, it's not drivers. But if the vehicle owners know who the driver are and they hold them to account, then we make it safer for our little ones that are always knowledgeable about road safety when they're on their own, getting off a bus. So
it's a big deal. I think that'd be great. I'd like to see automated enforcement everywhere for everything, almost. Because we can't be everywhere. We're understaffed and we have priority calls that need to be taken, but when we're doing one thing, we can't be doing the other thing. And everything is important. Are UV tints on front windshields fine? It's not dark just for UV. So this is a clear coating? I would say yes. That said, most modern cars have UV coatings already in the glass.
Yeah, and they're absolutely, you can't see them. They're already there.
Yeah.
Now, I remember back in the 90s, some of the big GM cars, it actually looked kind of mirrored depending on the light and everything.
Weird shimmer.
And you know what? They actually changed it. They changed all those windshields out because it didn't comply. But they had them out there for a couple of years.
If I'm doing the post at 100 kilometers while the flow of traffic is 130 to 140, am I not the one impeding? So yes and no. The impeding traffic, implies that you're not breaking the law. It's not about impeding those who are unlawful. If someone was robbing a bank and you got in their way, would you be getting a criminal charge for getting in the way of a bank? No. I keep using that. It's a terrible excuse, but I can't think of anything else that translates as well. It's not about impeding at that point. Stay to the right, because there is a law in the books that says you cannot. You have to stay to the right if you're and not. What is the wording for it? It's slower moving traffic. Move right.
So it is now signed again. It originally was, but there's not a specific one where it says that the passing lane is the left and the slower lane is the right until it's signed. Mm-hmm. And once again. So
But we know that
fail to facilitate passing would be a charge. If you're staying in the last lane and that is
Camping
the lane,
there.
Yep.
But I can tell you that, and I've said this many, many times, it's not new. I would always go after the speeder as a police officer. If someone's making a dangerous environment, doing 130 and 140, I'd be pulling those people over left, right, and center. And I wouldn't be looking for the person who's doing 100 kilometers. That said, that person doing 100 kilometers should stay to the right and let the people pass, because the boneheads who are speeding are going to be, if you're in the left lane, making unsafe maneuvers to go around you. We know this, so let's be safe.
Now, if you're traveling at 70 and the rest of the traffic flow is traveling at 100 or 100 plus,
That's different.
That is different.
Absolutely. Can someone park on a random residential street where there is a no parking sign 1 to 2 hours? So in a city, if it's no parking, you can't park there because it says no parking. And then if there's no parking sign. So if there's no parking sign, then you have a 3-hour time frame that you can park there, unless it says permit required.
Right. Unless it says permit required or you're required by Green P to pay for it.
Yes. Ox says, thank you both for educating us. You're most welcome. And thank you, because we appreciate the appreciation. In between all of the other stuff that we see, the thank yous are of course, our favorites. But we're here for you. That's why we do this show. It's all about helping out. Can you have a picture copy of proof of insurance and license? So funny, you've avoided the only one that is legal. You can have a photocopy of your ownership documents and plate portion. You cannot have a picture of any of them. Pictures do not meet the requirement. The only thing that you can use electronic proof for is your insurance proof, and that is only if the provider, the insurance company, gives you an app that allows you to log in and have that information, and it's verified. It's not just a file saved on your phone.
Right.
It's an app. It's an app for that. But yeah, no photos. Now, will it help? Is it helpful to have a copy of it? Like in case something happened, although you should never keep this stuff in your car. If it was stolen out of your car, which is bad because now they know where you live, but that's another story. If you had that and you had nothing else, you lost your wallet, whatever happened, it's better than nothing, but it does not meet the legal requirements.
And it's actually highly suggested that you keep a true copy of your ownership in your car and not the original. What is happening is cars are getting stolen, as you've heard. And what can happen is they can go out and pretend to be you and sell it to an unexpected buyer, collect all the money from them and run away. And then all of a sudden your car is now in the possession of somebody who thought they legally bought it. And they have a right to it because they spent some money. They have a possessory right, but so do you because it was stolen from you. So that's where it goes. You'll get your car back, and the person who unfortunately bought it with real money wouldn't have a car.
It's bad. It's a bad day at the office. And Joe Disco, just because we're going to end with you, are you in favor of the new statement, leave your keys out so criminals can steal your vehicles? And then someone says, should I leave my keys on the porch? And rightfully so, Christian says, the suggestion was to leave it by your front door, not outside. And thank you. There's a lot of misunderstanding with that statement. And that's a problem with taking a single statement and then turning it into a media frenzy when there was a lot more information provided. No one's saying leave it outside of your house. It's about if someone's breaking into your house who may want to do harm or be willing to do harm to get those keys, let them get the keys and get going so they don't hurt you. That's all it is. It's not about, because we used to say hide them and then they go looking for them. Well, going looking for them might be coming up to your bedroom and dragging you out of bed in the middle of the night to say, give me your keys. And they usually come with friends and or weapons. We want you to be safe. That's what this is all about. Okay, we're done with questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time to continue, but I do want to hit some dad jokes.
And I have to leave before dad jokes.
Before dad jokes?
Yep. I do
Okay,
have to
he's
go.
got a
I
meeting.
have an 11:30 one, so
Okay.
gotta go. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Thanks for jumping in. All right, we're talking about the dad jokes. So dad joke from Brandon. Okay, you might want to hear this one. Dad joke. My wife asked me why I don't buy her flowers. And to be honest, I didn't know she sold flowers. I like that. That's very good. My neighbor says his dog could bring a ball back from a mile away. That seems a little far-fetched to me. I like that one too. Yogi Berra quote. I never seem to these don't resonate with me, but that's okay. I haven't read this one yet. If you ask me anything I don't know, I'm not going to answer. Okay, I can buy that. That's good. What do we got? We got dad joke from Paul. I only know 25 letters of the alphabet. I don't know why. I've heard it before, but it's still good. Okay. And that's it. All right. I have the Song of Songs, the song that people prefer over the AI-generated songs, but it's still it's a magical song, and I will play it for you now. Let's see here. It's the traffic song, written and performed by a police officer right here in the studio. Actually, it was out in the hallway over there, but it doesn't matter. It's great, and enjoy. See you tomorrow, I think.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Okay, to answer the question of where can I find a stream schedule, we post on VoiceOver Cop on Twitter, generally the evening before we go live. Most days it is Monday to Friday, 10 to 11. And as you can see, it's 11:30 and we're still here. Sometimes even 12, because we have tons and tons of people who want to watch, and we want to be here for you. Let's see where people are coming in. We got 121 people currently watching live, and 92 of them are watching on X through our traffic services channel. That's awesome. Now, I didn't hear from anybody on X, so I wonder if it's working. If anybody on X currently watching would be so kind as to ask a question in the chat, just as a test, I'd like to know that it actually works, because maybe it's something I'd have to put a trouble ticket in for. Anyway, we have some scheduling issues this week, because I'm working on a project to create some training material internally for our police officers. I do that as well. And I may not be here every day this week, but if you go on to Twitter and check out the feed, subscribe to us there, we will post, or I will post, and let you know. Okay, let's see here. I'm getting some messages saying that maybe the messages aren't coming through. I'm going to go on here and see what's going on. Testing. Hang on a second. I know I said goodbye and I'm still here, but go into the stream. Hello, testing. Maybe it's broken. No, there we are. It worked. So it means that if you had questions, even though you were quiet, you could have been asking questions and it would have worked through. So hopefully next time you can join us and do just that, because we'd love to hear from you. And Greg says, I think my comment got filtered. No. Which filter? Which platform? Now, I will say the creativity of many who find that they're not being seen on one platform, jump over to another platform, and they are seen. Anyway, have a great day. Drive safe. Drive sober. If you're going to park, please park legally. And it's back to school this week. I know we were only gone for a few days. It was only a week, only 5 days of no school. But people have forgotten. So please remember, if you're picking up or dropping off or just being around schools, be safe and park legally, because it does put people at risk when people do silly things. I know we all have to go to the same place at the same time. It's a thing. But do your best. And we are out there looking for people who don't do their best, and they will be issuing tickets, not warnings. Have a great day, everybody.